Hello and welcome to the OK Takes podcast. I am Matt, and as always, I'm joined by my fellow capo, Edward. As of 1:01 p.m. West Coast time, it is with a very heavy heart that I announce to you, it's over. It's done. So we don't really have an actual game plan for this episode. We're sad. Whatever sad thoughts come to mind, we will then say those sad thoughts. So I present to you Edward with his sad thoughts.
Yeah, just a disappointing result when you look at the roster top to bottom. And if you didn't know what team it was, what year it was, you just saw the players, you'd think, oh, they won the World Series, probably swept their way through. And then when you realize they lost in the NLCS in 6 games, it's like, wow.
And then I think you bring up a good point. If you look at this top to bottom and you're like, wait, this team didn't win it all. It's not like baseball alone, but all sports. We look back at rosters. For example, like the Thunder, that's a classic one people always look back on. It's like, wait, they had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, and they never won a ring together. How is that even possible? So I think the Dodgers have now put themselves in that conversation because it really is insane. I mean, we already know what it is and don't have to say it, but like, Jesus, you have Mookie, who now has 4 Gold Gloves and MVPs, and Kershaw with his resume and all these guys. And how does this team not win anything? And then you just look at what happened in crunch time.
Yeah, they just simply couldn't get it done. They couldn't get it done. It was tough to watch at times. It was fun to watch at times. It was a weird playoff run. It really was weird, like looking back at it and kind of the way things happened, starting with the walk-off in the wild card game to where we are now. It was a really strange run for this team, and it's just disappointing it didn't end with the Commissioner's Trophy coming home again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like the entire playoffs was squeezing like a little tub of toothpaste and just squeezing and rolling it up and and trying to get every little last bit out of it. And then you even like pour some water down it just to get a little bit more, and you roll over the last end of it with your car to get even more out, and there's truly nothing left in the tube of toothpaste.
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect way of putting it. I was saying last night they just ran out of gas. Like I feel like they put all their fight and all their drive and all their winning mentality into getting over that hump of the Giants in the NLDS. And they only saved enough of that for 2 wins against the Braves. At least that's what it seemed like to me. They just were exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, because even as a fan, I was very tired from watching all the games.
Yeah, I was exhausted as a fan. So me being exhausted watching the games has to translate to the players actually playing the games also being exhausted, or else I'm just a bum.
Oh, trust me, we are not bums. I think it's a worthy debate. We'll have that debate for another time. But if it's harder to watch a game than to play a game.
Yes, I think it's harder to watch, but we'll that's another story for another day.
It just, I mean, when you're really, once again, like I agree with you on how it just ran out of gas and they just couldn't. I mean, we saw like the moment that I knew it was all over and that we all knew it was over was the Rosario home run. And that was a moment where they had their guy. He was it for them the entire series, and he delivered the dagger, and the Dodgers didn't have any daggers left to deliver. Like there was no arrows left in their little bag that they could sling on a bow and just shoot at the Braves. No, the Braves had arrows in their bag, and the Rosario one was the final kill shot.
Yeah, for the most part, but I also think that the true kill shot was Dodgers having second and third with no outs in the 7th, and Pujols, and I can't even remember, but everyone struck out. I just know everyone struck out. Betts struck out to end the inning. You can't even put the ball in play. You're down 2 runs. You have 2 runners in scoring position with no outs in the 7th inning. That was the inning where I was like, okay, this season is over. Not even so much after the home run.
Oh yeah, it was the classic. Rosario was the shot, and then the chaser was the 7th inning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mookie looking at 3 balls that could not have been any juicier. Those are just some fat fastballs.
I don't get what he was looking at. Like, what did he not see that they were in the zone? Like really?
those baseballs were like cheeseburgers where if you press down on them, blood is just oozing out and it just soaks the bun because they're so fucking juicy.
That's an inning that I can't remember if it was like Bill Plunkett or someone, but they tweeted out like the Dodgers are going to think about that inning all off season long.
Because we once again look back and saying, how is it that Mookie Betts with 2 MVPs, 2 World Series rings can go down looking at, or can just whiff on, I don't know if I can't remember if he looked at the last pitch or if he
looked at the first
okay,
2
yeah.
and then he swung at the missed at the last one.
Yeah. How can Mookie just not connect on 3 fastballs down the cock? You just can look back at it and you look at the numbers and you just have to throw them out the window. I don't know what else to do about it. Like, I don't know.
Isn't it kind of fitting though, that the Dodgers season ends on 3 consecutive strikeouts with 2 runners in scoring position and nobody out? Because like that was kind of a trend, not hitting with runners in scoring position. So I guess it's fitting.
Yeah. But also just in general for any team, there's like, okay, for football, for example, because it's Sunday and we've been watching all day. It's the team that usually is able to win the war in the trenches. That's the team that wins. It's the same thing that spills over to runners in scoring position. The team that connects with runners in scoring position, that's the team that wins.
Yeah.
So when a team loses, it's usually because they didn't hit with runners in scoring position.
Absolutely.
And then I just want to talk about how we're like while we're on the topic of runners in scoring position, in the 4 games the Dodgers lost, they went 5 for 30 with runners in scoring position, and they scored 2 runs 3 times. And then you kind of look at the top dogs of the order, the guys who have been getting it done, and the reason why we have 106 wins in the first place. Mookie Betts hit 174. Corey Seager hit 167. Trey Turner hit 240. Will Smith hit 217. And truthfully, Trey Turner hit 150.
Trey, that's a very forgiving 240. Like, keep that in mind, folks. That is a very forgiving 240.
Dude, that's like you're saying you weigh 180 pounds, but it's after you just had a colonoscopy.
Exactly. That's not a very telling 240. Just I think it's all from that 3-hit game.
Mm-hmm. It's like saying you're 6'2", but with shoes on.
Exactly. Trey Turner is 6'2" with shoes on for the playoffs.
So I think that's what I was referring to on the last episode as he's the boyfriend who starts getting you flowers and chocolates right before he breaks up with you. So you can't say he was bad boyfriend because that was the last impression.
Yeah. And it's like, it's hard to just blame the offense, but I kind of just blame the bullpen was a wagon. And I know it wasn't perfect, but most of the time it was pretty darn perfect. And the starting pitching wasn't perfect either, but most of the time they did what they needed to do. The offense just flat out did not do what it needed to do.
Oh, for sure. And I think the bullpen is a great time to just acknowledge Kenley. Like, Kenley this postseason was in, Jesus Christ, I can't even believe it now that I'm looking at it a day later, but he went 7 innings, 0 earned runs, 3 hits, no walks, 14 strikeouts. So we got the best. Yeah, so we got the best version of Kenley we will probably ever get in any team, if he decides to move on, will ever get. And we weren't able to take advantage and put another ring on his hand, put another ring on his finger. When you get a bullpen that was as good as ours, and bullpen game after bullpen game, we're allowing 2 to 3 runs, how do you not translate that into World Series? I think that's the part that kills me the most. And maybe for you, it's and just for the audience in general, like maybe what kills you the most is the not hitting with runners in scoring position. For me, it's not taking advantage of a once in a lifetime bullpen.
You know, I get that, and I partially agree. And people love to say it's like the football thing: defense wins championships. People like to say bullpens win championships. You also have to score runs to win championships too. You know, a bullpen can only do so much. If the offense is, like you said, in the 4 losses, 3 of them, we only scored 2 runs. Going to be kind of hard to win with only scoring 2 runs.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely not one or the other.
No.
And I hate that argument of just blaming one person or one side for for going down in the NLCS. No, it's a combination of both. because if one side was good enough, then they would have been able to scrap our way out of this. We wouldn't, whether it's Buehler giving up or having relievers come in early, taking Buehler out, and then our relievers only give up 1 run, and we in the game instead of, because Rosario's home run made it 1-1, made it 4-1. So if we just eliminate those 3 runs, then we'd win because we ended up scoring 2 runs. So it's very ticky-tacky. It's very agreeable that the offense was much worse than the bullpen.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone was saying, like going back to what you said about taking Buehler out, putting in a bullpen arm, everyone was saying, well, we should have had Vesia in instead of Buehler for Rosario, but then Vesia came in, 3 batters faced, 3 walks. So, and there's no telling if he would have been the same, out of control as he was late in the game if he had pitched earlier, but still it was like, you can't quite just pin it down, I think, to that one no decision. It's more than that. It can't be it's not one or the other. It's a mixture of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mixture indeed. I just I don't know what else to say about it, because that's you can sum everything up to that. Offense could have been much better, and they should have been able to take advantage of the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, the bullpen was lights out, and not even just Kenley, like Corey or Brewstar first. Wow, like comparing what Brewstar Gratterall did in the regular season to what he did in the postseason, it was unbelievable. And I mean, Corey Knebel was put in some tough positions as openers. He did a great job. I was never worried when he comes in. Even with how good our bullpen is, a lot of times when they come in, I'll be like, I've seen the Dodgers bullpens in the past where they would collapse with Pedro Baez and the Yimi Garcias of the world. And that was like, I was not used to seeing guys like Corey Knebel and Alex Vesia and Gratterall and Bickford and all these guys just come in and be lights out. It's just disappointing that this bullpen didn't get a chance to shine on in the World Series,
Yeah, no, that's the one thing that they've proved to us, is that bullpen games do work. The traditional thinking that you need 5 starters and you only need 2 or 3 guys to really eat up the bulk of the innings out of the pen. You need a closer and you need a setup guy, and then the rest of the guys are interchangeable, and hopefully you just have 2 or 3 good middle relievers. No, like what the Dodgers proved, that you can have a really bad an injury riddled staff and have to rely on your bullpen, and that will get you 106 wins. If the bullpen, so we can kind of look back and then say, okay, well, what are some of the good things that happen? Okay, well, we know that we have a really solid bullpen, and we know that we were able to manage our way into 106 wins without a 5-man staff.
Yeah, and I mean, the pitching, that's a great point. The pitching has been a huge problem all year. Kershaw was really never 100% healthy, for being honest. We lost Dustin May early on. We Trevor Bauer, and then now in the playoffs, Max Scherzer had a dead arm. So it was like the whole year starting pitching was an issue. But they proved that as long as you have a good bullpen, you can win baseball games.
And I'd say the same thing with the Braves. They showed us that as well. Is that I don't even think Anderson finished 4 innings. Or not 5 innings?
No, I think he might have gone 4 2/3 over his 2 starts. I don't think he ever finished 5 innings over his 2 starts against us.
Exactly, but he had guys like Matzik, he had guys like Minter come in and shut shit down. Will Smith was amazing. So the only guy you could really point to was Luke Jackson, who gave up the 3-run home run to Belly, and then almost blew it again last night. Once we got the rally started that we already talked about, that was the one that was over in a snap. But they had a great bullpen as well, and like the crazy Logan Webb 7-inning, 8-inning starts that we have seen, that really build up playoff history. You're like, oh my god, remember that guy in game 1 of the NLCS or whatever it is? That's not as common as it once was, and there's a reason why it's not as common.
Yeah, it truly is a testament to, the Braves being resilient, because they lost Acuna.
The real resilient. They deserve the hashtag. They deserve the hashtag. The hashtag resilient SF. That's irrelevant.
They lost Soroka early on, who's a really good arm. They lost Acuna, and they replaced those guys with Soler and Jock and Duvall and Rosario and a lot.
He who shall not be named. Like he who should now. There's two guys who fall under the he who shall not be named. It's Rosario and Bauer at this point.
Yeah. So it's like, their bullpen was lights out too, and credit to them. And I hope they win the World Series. Go beat the cheaters.
Yeah, I don't really have any problem with the Braves, and I haven't really had any problems with any of the teams you played from the it was only one game against the Cardinals, but we know how quick it takes for a rivalry to start brewing. Didn't really hate the Cardinals. We just hate the Giants because of the history with the Giants, and with the Braves, we don't really have any animosity. That's like, and it's probably going off topic, but we're just saying, I already forgot what we were already talking about 10 seconds ago, but it felt a little bit strange that nobody hated each other.
But I still think that the Braves and the Dodgers have a better case to be a rivalry than the Dodgers and the Padres do, because we played the Braves in the 2018 NLDS. I remember because we beat them. I remember David Freese had a really big hit, and then we played them last year, came back from 3-1 down, played them again this year, and this time they beat us. So we're kind of building a rivalry, but you're right. There's no animosity. There's no, I don't hate the Braves. I want them to go win now.
I don't really hate Rosario. I don't hate Albies. I like Freddie Freeman a lot. I think Freddie Freeman is one of the most likable stars in baseball.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be a really bad look if you decided to beam Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, if you hated Freddie Freeman, it's like the red flag trend on Twitter. I hate Freddie Freeman. Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag.
Have you seen Blades of Glory?
I have, but it's been a long time.
Do you remember the mascot in that? Like, you shot Snowy.
Yeah.
How Will Arnett shot a bow and arrow in the mascot's head. That's what it's kind of like for Freddie Freeman. Is he just has the innocence of everyone's favorite mascot.
Yeah.
Now we're just in kind of a weird spot, but it's funny. I was talking to my mom and she said it could, because I was like, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit to spare. It feels grim. And she said, sometimes it might just be a terrible relief. And I was like, yep, that's how the season feels now that it's over. It's a terrible relief, because what else is there to stress about? I mean, okay, actually, there is a lot to stress about as we head into the off season. Well, fuck. Okay, never mind. Actually, the terrible relief is not over. It's terrible, but it's not in past tense. So fuck, that went nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, and we have other teams to stress about.
God damn it.
We have other teams to stress about, like purple and gold. And yeah, like you said, a lot of upcoming free agents. So there's a question of is everyone even going to come back? It's going to be really interesting, but I do have to say it is kind of relieving to know that now I can just take the time I need and not have to stress about a World Series, because those games were stressful. Every one of those games last year were stressful. It's going to be a nice little break.
Yeah.
Until the winter meetings open, and then it'll be stressful again. Like, is Seager going to come back? Is Taylor going to come back? Is Kenley going to come back?
Yeah, let's start with Seager, because obviously they asked about it in the post-game pressers. And he said, absolutely. So you said, do you want to come back to the Dodgers? He said, absolutely. I grew up here. I've spent a lot of time here. I believe in what these guys do and how we go about it. Absolutely. Okay. Well, now we're going to have to redefine the term absolutely.
Yeah, I was convinced that he was Yankee bound, or Scott Boras was going to stretch. Like, I don't even know. I just thought he was done for in a Dodger uniform. And then last night, I know I'm going to butcher the quote, but Dave Roberts said, like, this is a great group of guys. I just wish we could have won one more with them. Like, he said something about, like, it's going to be a much different looking group. And
yeah, I have it right here. So he said, it's been a core group of guys that could be turned over this winter. I'm not looking forward to it. I wish we could have won another one with this group. Okay, well, that doesn't sound like is matching up with Seager's quote.
Yeah, like I had heard that before I had heard the Seager quote. So it was just pain last night after hearing that. Then I hear the Seager quote this morning, And I'm like, oh wow, that I was very pleased with
Yeah.
what Seager had to say. I was like, wow, he's gonna come back.
Because everything contradicts Seager, because Walker Buehler said, I hope everyone is back, but that's not the reality of the situation. Look, I think Seager's caught up the morning, is caught up in the moment where you let's say he participates in a certain act with a partner and then says, I love you. Well, you're just saying I love you because of what you were doing in the certain moment.
Yeah,
And
and
like
what he really meant was see you in chemistry.
Yes.
That's what he really meant.
I really hope that other people get that.
I think they will.
I hope so. My parents definitely won't. Jesus. They'll probably think it's about Breaking Bad.
Yeah. But I don't know. I do think that Seager likes playing here. And I do think Chris Taylor's going to come back. That's one guy that I'm really confident in. I think the Dodgers saw Kike walk and saw what he did this postseason. They saw Jock Peterson leaves. He's in the World Series now.
Yeah.
I think they saw that, and they don't want to lose another one of those guys who can play multiple positions on the field.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes a lot of sense. But you just can't keep everybody. You just can't I don't know.
I mean, Scherzer's a goner. Yeah, I think we knew that since the moment we traded for him. But I really hope that Jansen and Seager, Taylor, Kershaw, I hope those guys make it back.
Mm-hmm. I think if you ask them, would you like to return? All of them would say yes. Until you wave them $300 million in front of their face.
I think a lot of it depends.
For Seager, that's where I mean by that. I mean, that's the only person it's relevant to. None of those guys are getting 300 million. But you're going to tell me here's a question. Would you rather have $300 million or not have $300 million?
$300 million. But we've seen that Friedman is willing to spend. He spent $300 million on Mookie Betts. And I think that maybe he won't give $300 million, but I think he'll give Seager a really high AAV. I could see him them offering him a deal along the lines of he who must not be named number one.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a really interesting winter. I think, it's going to be a different roster, but I hope not too different.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the same way. Is that now I know that was the point I wanted to bring up. There's no animosity between anybody on the team. There was no locker room drama. We could have had really bad locker room drama after he who shall not be named. And none of those guys split up. So I think they all love playing with each other. If there was anything going on, then it would have been very hush hush and very minor. Team chemistry is not the reason why this team lost.
No.
So everybody likes each other. So if you ask them, do you want to stay? Yes, absolutely. Do you also want to have $300 million? Absolutely.
Yeah. And that is a good point. The Dodgers have always seemed like a really close-knit group. They're all in the same fantasy league. I remember when we traded for Manny Machado. I remember like Justin Turner and Alex Wood and I think another guy were on a vacation together, and they're a close-knit group, and I do think that they want to stay, but I also think that they know there could be money elsewhere, and Friedman and the front office might not be willing to dump it.
That's it.
And I mean, and also it's tough because Bellinger's going to have to get paid. Will Smith's going to have to get paid. Dustin May's going to have to get paid. Walker Buehler's going to have to get paid. So it's we kind of have to, we're at a point where we're going to have to pick and choose.
Yeah. That sucks.
That's not fun to think about.
No. But yeah, I feel like that kind of wraps up everything that we're going through. It's we expected this moment to happen after losing game 2, and then where we're at right now and what we saw last night, not being able to come back with runners in scoring position in the 7th inning and not being able to just have any juice left for us to just draw upon. That was it. That's how I feel. Is that just like the toothpaste example I gave in the beginning of the episode? There's nothing left. That was it. So I'm kind of content with that idea, not content with the idea that we talked about in the second half of the show.
Yeah, that's the scarier part.
Yeah.
Harder to come to terms with.
Yeah.
Because if it were up to us, no one would ever leave.
Yeah. It was just being monopoly money.
Yep.
But that's not the case. All right, man. Is there anything else?
I think that's it.
Cool. All right. Well, this is the very sad. I don't know. Feel.
Oh
very
yeah,
yeah,
last Dodger episode,
for
probably till maybe a free agency one if something big
yeah,
happens. I don't know.
yeah. We'll keep you. We'll just play it by ear and
Sad
very
stuff.
last minute as everything we do. Yeah. All right. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to the last Dodgers season or Dodgers 2021, the last podcast of the Dodgers 2021 season. Yeah, this sucks. Wow. I'm just word salad because I don't know how to wrap my brain around this. Well, like many things. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you would like to follow myself on social media, you could find me at MattWeiner20 on Instagram and Twitter. If you'd like to follow Edward on his social media, you could find him at Edward_Vento. And if you'd like to follow the OK Takes podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, you can find us on those platforms at OK Takes Pod. That is OKAY Takes Pod. OKAY Takes Pod. Takes 2 seconds. Click the follow button. We'll follow you right back, and it'll help us tremendously. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and have a wonderful day.